Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tell Me More Radio with Tom Shadyac. Tom isn't here with us, and I don't know where he is, but hopefully
he's in LA.
Okay, well, hopefully he's safe and having fun. I'm your host, Jasmine Houston, and tonight I have a whole bunch of unfamiliar faces present, but I hope that I get to know each and every one of you soon. So would you guys like to say hi, anybody? I think that a lot of you are from CBU because I reached out to one of my friends and told her to invite people to the show. And so I'm really thankful for her. Thanks, Rakisha. I don't want to call you your name. I'll call you because it might embarrass you, but thank you. So anybody?
Well, I'll start. I'm Keon, but I've been here for a while. Let's pass mine.
Yeah, we're tired of you.
Well, yeah, I'm a new guy. My name is Justice Wright. I'm a senior management major at Christian Brothers University. I'm also a member of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated there, and I'm glad that you all allowed me to be here today.
Thanks for coming. Anybody else?
We're going around the circle.
I'm Alan.
Hey, Alan.
I'm Andrew. I was here last week. I'm a communications major at University of Memphis.
Yep, he's in my class. The only person who talked to me.
Javon.
Okay.
This is Adrian not calling in tonight.
It's so weird.
I wish we had a soundboard where we could just do clapping. I can't tell you how thrilled we are to have you here in the room tonight with us, Adrian.
Real clapping.
Yay!
I can't imagine. You can't imagine how excited I am to be here after all this.
Well, that's good. We're glad to have you here. I'm still kind of determining if you're on my good side again because you remember when I said you could take 3 things to hell and you said that you would sneak Brooke books in even though she wasn't allowed. So I don't know. You're going to have to
Just
make
seems
your way
a little
back
petty at this point.
Yeah, bring some mashed potatoes and we'll get it back. But all right, y'all, I'm not going to. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, my name is Brittany. I also go to CBU. I'm a psychology major with a minor in biology, and I also play tennis for CBU.
Oh, that's really cool. I'm glad y'all are here. Brooke and Art.
My name is Art.
Hi, Art. That's it. And you guys hear me every night. My name is Brooke. I got some feedback from the wonderful George Bryant, who is the owner of KWAM 990. He said, we don't say our names enough. He loved the show last night, but Art and I failed to identify ourselves even once. So for those of you who are tuning in, this is Tell Me More Radio. I'm Brooke, and you can call us at 901-260-5926. And we appreciate feedback because we are still learning.
Who's hosting tonight?
Oh, I am hosting. My name is Jasmine Houston. I thought I said it.
You did. Yeah, but one time is a long time in a whole hour.
All right, so my name is Jasmine, and tonight I'm really excited about the topic. So Miss Tawana gave me this idea. Some of you may know her, some of you may not. I don't really know her, but she gave me a lot of good insight. And so she told me to ask you guys, can black people be racist? And I'm pretty sure this is going to go a lot of different ways. So
Yes.
Ready to get started.
So to me, I feel like this is going to be a short show. I feel like Keon already answered it. Yes. Can black people be racist? Of course. Can white people? Can anyone? Anybody can be racist. So I'm interested to see where you want to go with this.
Yep, well, we're going to get there soon. But I want to hear from you guys first. And if you would like to join the conversation, the number to call is 901-260-5926.
Jasmine, define what you mean by racist and what connotations that has for you.
Okay, so I'm glad I already pulled this up. So I have 2 definitions that I got from the Merriam-Webster dictionary and then my favorite dictionary.com. So the first definition of racism says poor treatment of or violence against people because of their race. And then the second one says the belief that some races of people are better than others. All right, and so that one is from Merriam-Webster. The one from dictionary.com says that it usually involves the idea that one's own race is superior and has the right to dominate others, or that a particular racial group is inferior to the others. So, I don't want to give away my stuff first, Adrian. You're trying to throw me out there first. So, I'm going to tell you guys that I don't think that, well, no, I don't want to tell y'all yet. I want to hear from y'all first. So, anybody want to tackle the question? Anybody, really?
Yeah. Oh, don't be shy, guys. I mean, it's an interesting question. I think maybe people are hesitating because it seems pretty straightforward. Everybody can have hatred in their heart, any person, and
True.
that's not dependent on your skin color.
That's true. Well, since you guys are a little quiet, y'all need to stop being shy.
They're
Speak
warming up. It's okay.
I got it. But since everybody's quiet, how about we play clip one? Just so I found this video on YouTube of someone. Her name, I forgot her name, but she answers the question, "Can Black people be racist?" So I want to hear her perspective, and I guess let you guys respond just to start it off. So, Jess, could you play clip number one, please?
First and foremost, I think that we need to make a distinction between racism and prejudice, right? Because I think that a lot of us, especially if we grew up in like the 90s, we have this kind of view of racism where it's always this prejudice on the basis of your skin tone. Every time I have a conversation with a white person about this, they always end up doing this thing where they screenshot the definition of racism and they're like, well, here's what racism is, da, 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 da. You know, and let me just say this, right? If racism were simply just someone not liking me because I'm Black, that would be pretty sweet, to be honest with you. If racism were only, hey, you're Black, I don't like you, that's cool, you know, I would be whatever. Because to me, it's really easy for me to just dismiss somebody who doesn't like me because of something I can't help, you know, and that I wouldn't change, my melanin on fleek. You know what I mean? But that's not what racism is, right? Racism is so much more than that. Racism is a system. I've already talked about this. Racism is a system. Racism is an ideology, right? And the ideology, in America at least, is one of white supremacy, right? And what do I mean by that? You know, because a lot of people, they think of racism and they think, you know, KKK members burning crosses on your front yard, right? That is, of course, racism. But racism is so much more than that. To me, racism is segregation. Racism is something like slavery that was still allowed to happen. Racism is the redlining of school districts that keep brown and Black people in impoverished schools and impoverished areas. Racism is systemic, right? And when I'm having conversations about racism, I'm not talking about that one time this white kid, you know, called me a bad name. For me, when I have conversations about racism, I'm talking about forced sterilization, rape, murder, genocide, all of these things. I'm not talking about, oh my gosh, this white person was mean to me. That's just not what it is. Black people can absolutely be prejudiced, but they have not held the power in this country to actually systemically oppress a white person.
All right, guys. Anybody want to jump in and give a response?
I mean, first of all, that was definitely the wrong music for that clip. But otherwise, I disagree with her completely. And I disagree with her because you're taking something that everyone has like known as a certain format, in my opinion, like definitively in culture, and then saying that it's no longer applicable to one race because they haven't been able to do it to another race. And to me, that's racism. I feel like she was enacting racism by saying that Black people can't be racist because they haven't done that to other people yet.
Well, I thought it was interesting because she didn't say that Black people couldn't be racist. What she said was try to make a distinction between racism and, oh gosh, I can't remember the other word she used now.
Prejudice.
Prejudice. Thank you. Sorry, guys. It flew out of my mind. Between racism and prejudice. So I thought that was interesting, but I also wonder if the distinction is important. Is it an important difference to you, Jasmine?
I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Is it important to make a difference between racism and oppressing someone, or?
I think it is, but I'm not ready to give my remarks on it just yet. So I'm going to let everybody else answer, and then I'm going to give it, if that's how y'all want to do it.
Well, for me personally, I wholeheartedly agree with what she said because it's exactly right. If you talk about racism, in the second definition that you use is just like one color feeling superior or dominant in race to another color. I mean, to an extent, that's pretty normal. That's just a human nature thing. If you agree with what you know, you agree. Like if somebody comes against your family, your parents, you're automatically gonna side with them no matter what happened. It's just it's human nature. It's innate. But as far as systemically oppressing a group of people, if we're using that as the basis of being racist, then yes, then no, black people can't be racist. And why, especially in America, is because we've never had the footholds to do those things. We never owned anything. We never had them. We've never been the majority of people. So there's never been an opportunity for black people to actually systemically oppress another group of people, especially in America, because it's always been us as that group. And even though she only mentioned black people, no other minority group in America can be racist, as if we're using America as the context, as far as economically, socially, like she said, like school districts, things of that nature. Those are all controlled majority by white people. So I agree with what she said.
Does it matter what label we put on it, whether we call it racism or prejudice or make the fine differences? It's easier to see what is going on in terms of what you see with discrimination and inequity in income and housing and education opportunities. Why? I agree with Brooke's question. Why is it important for us to make a distinction between racism and prejudice or any other label that we want to put on what the situation is?
Well, I think that at the end of the day, it is important to get away of the differences, because really we're all from the same thread. But at the same time, it's also important to understand the perspective of black people or any minority or any group of people who feel that they're oppressed, because it's not important to make like a distinction between like the differences and the commonalities. But at the same time, if they're saying this is why it is different, I don't think that love is the ultimate solution, because we got to hear it. And so as far as her saying that racism is not necessarily whites not liking black people, it's the idea of superiority, I agree with it, because like Keon, I understood what you were saying by saying like that you can't say that it's racist because we weren't able to do it to you. But that's not what I got from it. I got from what she was saying that because minorities haven't been able to show other people what it feels like to not have advantages and equal opportunity to different sources in order to become successful, that it is important to show the differences, because that's what she said is racism. The idea of saying that your race is superior than the other. And I'm not saying that like white people who are, I'm not saying that white people have the attitude saying, oh, I'm better than you, or I'm better than you. It's not necessarily all being racist. It's just the system that's racist. It's one that's based on race. And just because you fall into a certain group biologically or in a specific caste system and you're not able to achieve higher levels in that caste system, that's the racist part. She was saying that prejudice is when you look at somebody else's race and say, oh, I don't like you because you're white. I don't like you because you're black. It's not important to like ultimately, oh, you're black, you're white, like to have those differences, but it is important for us to recognize the differences before we can move forward. Because if everything was the same, then it'll be like everything would be happy and joyful, but everything isn't the same for everybody. So in order to understand how we could get on the same page, we got to understand why it's different for other people.
I would agree with the nameless clip lady that there is a very definitive systemic issue that needs to be addressed and perhaps raised up into awareness, and I believe that's what you're needing to do tonight, and I get that. That's totally cool, because I see that as well, and I understand the definition based on that systemic issue. I see that, but I don't. I would, and I know that there has to be people who will rise above even the issues in the system. I know it happens, and I think that if it's communicated in a way of rising up and transcendence and actually caring about each other, that we can move beyond even the issues in the system. It may take 3-4 generations, and it has to stay as a top issue up there, but not in a way that's communicated with violence or anger or fear, because then it's just going to perpetuate the system. That's my take on it, and I love you all. Got to go.
Well, thanks for your time.
We love you too. Thanks for sparing a couple minutes.
No. Well, okay. Well, thanks, R, for coming. I appreciate your quick perspective. Thank you. But one thing that I wanted to talk about was just the difference between racism and prejudice, because yes, prejudice, like someone could be prejudiced and be black at the same time. Like I've experienced where my loved ones have said racial slurs about white people, Hispanics, everything, and I didn't think it was cool just because it's not cool to say degrading terms, in my opinion. But at the same time, I think it's a difference between prejudice and racism, because at first I was like, yeah, black people could be racist, but after I looked up the definition of racism versus prejudice, I had a different perspective.
Okay, now I understand what you definitely not what you intend with the show, but what you meant bringing that clip up between racism and prejudice. And my question is now is like, can Japanese people be racist?
If not I don't believe in America they can be. I don't think so.
Okay.
They could be prejudiced. They could have, oh, I don't like Asians because blah, blah, blah. Like they could do that. They could be prejudiced, but they don't have the power to be racist or to suppress a different group so that theirs remains superior, because that's not how America is set up.
Okay, so now I understand the definition of racism in America. Now my next question would be, is the world irrelevant? I mean, many countries speak English and have the definitions for racism and prejudice, but have nothing to do with our economic system. So how would racism equate to there? Just whoever's the top of the caste system is racist if they're not allowing for systemic advancements of other people?
I believe there were other socially defined racial groups, and that whoever the person was on top of the system in some other place, if they were keeping those other defined groups from being on the same level that they are on, then I think that's a form of racism. But if it's just Japanese only and it's just that, like, it's not a social construct of race that affects it as much, then no, I don't think so.
Okay. I have some other things, but I definitely want to hear from everyone sitting in this room. There's so much rich wisdom here.
Yeah, see, I feel that you all possibly have the definition kind of mixed up. In regards to how she was explaining racism, I feel that what she's really talking about is a strong sense of nationalism. So if you feel very strongly about your nation of people, of course you're going to say that your people are necessarily better than someone else's. And that's like, and that you can find that in many different countries around the world. For example, as Keon was saying, would you consider like people in general in the world to be racist? But no. If you're in a certain club, you're gonna have your certain aspects that you're gonna say are better than someone else's. For example, there are fraternities that say, "Oh, I'm better than this frat," just because they're in that frat, not necessarily they don't like someone else.
Right.
So, in my opinion, it's just a strong sense of nationalism. And then when you say racism as a system, now if you're trying to say people are being racist, you have to break it down to are they purposely doing this through education and economics and stuff like that? That would be racist. And then from that point, you would have to go into prejudice, because it only comes from creating a system that makes other people feel superior, that leads into prejudice to make you want to think, oh, he's bad because I've been taught this way he's bad. Otherwise, it's just nationalism and prejudice.
Well, I think what you said about nationalism is really interesting, because as people, we grew up tribalistically. We wanted to look out for the person that was next to us, because that meant that we were going to live and grow and be stronger. But I think what needs to happen, and what I kind of see happening, is we're growing into more of a global community. What I mean by that is we're more connected now than we ever have been to people all over the world, which is great, but that just the mere connection is just the start. It can be really dangerous to get swept up in the idea of my nation is better than another nation. And I do think that they can exist separately. I think that you can have pride in who you are as a person, as a white person, as a black person, as anyone, as an American. You can take pride in certain roles or labels or in your history without being exclusionary. And I think that's one of the goals of America, but it's not always one of the best ones. We're supposed to be the melting pot of diversity. But as you've said, there are a lot of issues where not everyone wants that acclamation, or they can't even see that there might be an issue there because they're unaware of a problem, or maybe they don't want to think about it.
Is being unaware part of the problem, perhaps, that I think there's a difference between intentional racism and this is the way the system is, this is the way the system has always been, and just an acceptance of it versus a conscious, I'm going to try and keep someone else down or rise above at the expense of someone else.
I think that some people do still believe, oh, white people are better than others, because I remember it was like this whole thing of manifest destiny where people thought that it was okay to take other people's territories because God granted them that superiority. And so there are a lot of people who do have that idea, but as for the other people who do see the bigger picture of things and the need for each other, they don't, like, they could, I wouldn't say that they're prejudiced if they have that ability to see that we need each other. But I believe that if they believe, I believe that if they believe. But I think that the only way that a person could be a racist is if they want to continue the system that suppresses and keeps other people down.
Well, because we all know that racism is not, you're not born a racist.
Not at all.
It's a learned trait, but it's embedded so deep in our community, in our world, in our system, that it's going to take more than just, saying things or just going about things a different way. So the question is, have we really progressed as a nation, or are we going backwards? Because we're bringing up the same issues that we've been having for over 50 years, 60 years. It's the same thing, but
Yes.
nothing is getting changed. We keep bringing it to a certain level, and people are taking stances for it. But what's going to happen a year from now, 2 years from now?
I'm kind of scared of what's going to happen because the fact that the same things from the stuff in our history books that we're learning about is still happening today is a problem. And I really think that the younger generation of people don't want to live in a world like that anymore. That was like back when our grandfathers and stuff were experiencing these things. And I do believe that we have progressed as a nation because it's like more diverse in my eyes than division. Like I'll get on the elevator and it'll be a white guy. Hey, how are you? Well, I just got out of class. Like I don't have anything against people who are able to recognize me as a person. But I think that when we continue to have a system based on prejudice where just because I think that you're this or your skin tone or physical makeup tells me this keeps continuing, that we're just going to keep having the same problems. But with the younger generation, I don't think we want to take it anymore. Like, it's not healthy, and we see it.
Well, I feel that it's an issue with education, as said earlier. When you have a system that is basically perpetuating everything that is happening through what is being taught in schools. For example, most school systems don't exactly teach definitions of words and whatnot. If you look up the 1828 definition of American, it says that this was a term applied to the copper-colored races found here by the Europeans when they had first arrived. But it is now applied to Europeans. Now, from that perspective, that seems like one group feels that they're better than another, and they took over somebody's basically title, as you would say. And in that sense, what would be the purpose of doing something like that? If those same individuals who were the originals that were here gave the Europeans their stay and whatnot, what's the purpose of taking over their name? And then to take over their land also, what would be like the purpose in doing all that if you're not quote unquote racist? There's no other reason, in my opinion.
Because you fear what you do not know. And I guess that goes back to because now in schools, and I guess what you would say, because you fear the unknown, you act a certain way. So if I fear that you're going to be better than me, what can I do to make you stay where you are? What can I do to make you stay stagnant, if you get where I'm coming from?
When we look at the colonialists, they were just like normal people. What drove the what I would call land theft and genocide of Native American people by colonialists was tea trade, and it was largely perpetuated by the British. So we have like a history of you can't blame anyone. Like you can't blame me. Well, the British told me to do it. And then you go to the British, we're like, well, we needed to export this to there. And we have that system. So, you know, when you look at the history of the systems of the world, you can't blame anyone. And I think that's there so that today I really believe in completely letting go and saying we have severely messed up everywhere. So now we have to create a new system. And I guess here I would agree with Jasmine. The people who are saying, no, the system we have is fine are racist. And everything else. They're completely backwards. They don't get it. They don't breathe with us on earth. Once you have a system that builds on the toils of other men, then you're not really here with us. You're here trying to be above us. And I think Brooke's motioning for a break.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to be subtle.
Yeah, I already know we got to take a break. I was trying to let you finish your thoughts.
Thank you. I know there's so much. I feel the energy of the room. Everyone's getting, deeper with this. And I feel like we should take a second. And unless, Andrew, you want to add something before we go on break?
I can bring it up in a second, like if we remember the train of thought we were on, because I kind of want to ask something to follow up on that.
Fair, sure.
All right, well, you could write your question down or try to hold on to it. We're going to take a quick break really fast, but if you guys would like to join the conversation, you could call us at 901-260-5926.
This is Tell Me More Radio.
Tell Me More with Tom Shadyac is taking your calls now at 901-260-5926. That's 901-260-5926.
My nose is round and wide. You hate me, don't you? You hate my people. Your plan is to terminate my culture. You're fucking evil. I want you to recognize that I'm a proud monkey. You've vandalized my perception, but can't take down from it. And this is more than confession. I mean, I might press the button just so you know my discretion.
All right, you guys, welcome back to Tell Me More Radio with Tom Shadyac. I'm your host, Jasmine Houston, and we have a really, really good topic going on tonight. I'm really excited to continue with the show. The question that I asked was, can black people be racist? And we've got a lot of different opinions on it. And I wish that some people would call in and tell us opinions as well. So if you'd like to call us, you could call us at 901-260-5926. The lines are completely open, so don't all call at once. But Andrew, you had a thought that you wanted to share with us before you went to break, so...
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on something Kian said. I really liked what you were saying about, like, the acknowledgement of saying that we've all messed up culturally, and we really need to acknowledge that other people feel different ways, and if we could all just sort of come together in one individual mindset, we could alleviate all of this. My question to that is, do you feel that people have the capacity to be able to change so immediately, or do you feel that from that systemically they could go the complete opposite direction and just increase in terms of racial intolerance? And
I think that's individually everyone has the capacity to breathe in, think whatever they want to be, breathe out and be it. Now, collectively, that's difficult because then you have to convince everyone. So collectively, once you become situationally aware, and I think it's a progressive thing, like I don't have to change the way, for example, a 5-year-old child or a 90-year-old person would, but I have to be aware enough to change individually in the moment to have harmony with the world I'm in. And I think that's the problem. Like, there's a great Bob Marley quote. We should put this on the wall. It says, when music hits, you feel no pain.
Right.
That's because it's harmonious. But when we really realize what's going on in the world, it's painful. It's not painful because anyone's doing any harm to me, but because we don't feel the harmony. And I really feel if you can put yourself in the harmony of this universe, then we can let go of all of it, and it'll be like a child who learned to run after having crawled and walked for a little bit and saying, wow, do you remember where we were?
Yeah, I hope that's what could eventually happen, but I get kind of scared when I hear the idea of, okay, let's just all forget about it because we know better, because that's not really realistic. Like, I don't know what has to happen. I don't have the ultimate solution, but I know that unity is a very, very big solution because it's more power in unison. And I think that in order for things to change, we got to change the system. Somebody said that, I wrote it down, I'm not sure. I think it was you, Keon. But I think that the only way that we could change the system is if we unite. But it can't just be like black people and a few white people or just like small groups of people. Like if we're all living in the same country, we all got to be on the same page because it's like this is where we are. So that's what I'm interested in.
So, Jazz, we actually have had some callers. We got booted out of the call system. So we've had Lee, who's been hanging in for 30 minutes.
Oh, I don't see any
It's okay.
calls.
I'll take him on air. Lee, are you with us?
Hey, I'm with y'all. How y'all doing?
Thanks for hanging in there. We were having a glitch. What do you have to share?
I appreciate that. Let me know what's going on. I was listening to earlier your guest that was talking, and he said, sometimes you just have to get over it and just move on. And I feel different on that. Sometimes when it comes to racism, I just don't understand, and a lot of us feel the same way for Black America in this country. Even the Native Americans, who are going through so much stuff. We don't understand why certain people in government are with power, because this is the way I look at racism and prejudice. Prejudice is self-hate or a person. That's self. That's prejudice to me. Racism is a social and economic prejudice. That's the way I look at racism. So the point that I'm trying to say is, it's not about trying to get over it and forget about it and stuff. You need to step back and do something that normal people say called damage control. You need to make it right.
So how do you think we could make it right, Mr. Lee?
Well, the first thing is, when you're called, what's this law that affirmative action?
Yes,
It
sir.
went so far. But now, when you look at the black man, because I'm a black man, it's a loophole. You get more white women into the affirmative action program instead of the black man, which was basically for. These loopholes and stuff that this racist country do, it's ridiculous. And people can see through things like that. You need to get together and build the black man up equal to the white man that it is right now. And this would be a better country.
You absolutely need to get together, Lee. And I know you're one of our regular listeners here on Tell Me More, but what we talk about all the time is coming together and about individual awakening as well. So it's definitely, change is not going to come to our country from anyone who's in one of those positions of power. The only way that change can come is for one individual heart to open up. That opens up another individual heart.
I totally disagree.
Well, I appreciate you disagreeing,
Hold
Lee.
on. Don't hang him up. Before I let you go, Mr. Lee, give us like a quick summation of why you disagree. You got 20 seconds.
Because you got the media who shortchange people when they have their opinion and conversation try to make this country better. You got TV and radio who don't want to talk about the issue, but they want to give out their point of view. They don't want to listen to just the American people out here, their voices. Now, I am prejudiced at times against certain white folks, but I'm not prejudiced against other certain white folks, because without them, we wouldn't be free.
I understand, because I know older generations.
It took them to make us free. And a lot of black folks know about this. It's good white folks. Just like there's a lot of bad black folks that I call handkerchief head Negroes.
Ooh,
and I truly believe we got one in the White House.
All right, Mr. Lee. Well, thank you for calling. We got to continue with the show.
Y'all have a nice day.
All right. Bye, Lee. We'll talk to you later.
All right. We also have another caller, Miss Murphy. We're going to bring you on air. Hello. Are you with us?
Hi, I'm just listening, and I just want to say, great show.
Thank you.
We appreciate the support.
Listen to you ladies. Listen, you guys are doing a wonderful job. Good show.
Thank you. You want to give any insight on this?
Nope. I just want to let you know that.
Hello, Miss Murphy.
All right. Well,
you threw me out here and you're just going to leave me hanging. It's okay.
I threw you out here. I did, didn't I?
And she's swimming just fine, I think.
I'm doing all right.
All right. Well, we're going to get you back. We'll call you next hour, okay?
All right. Thanks, Miss Murphy. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that is actually the host of the show that comes on right after us. So if you all would like to listen to her name is Miss Tawana Murphy, and she has some good topics as well. So y'all should check her out. She comes on right after us. All right, so is anybody else have anything they want to share?
Along with sort of what Mr. Lee was saying, and a lot of what some of the other sentiments have been. I think a lot of things for the Black community is just an awareness. It's like, because I think a lot of the alienation comes is like we see it's going on. Like you see a lot of Facebook videos, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, like the things that have been happening in the media lately. Now there's video that's clearly showing that in some of these cases that these men are literally being shot for no reason. As you've seen the situation in Texas where they had the hospital worker where he was trying to get the mentally ill patient, and it came out that he shot the man when his hands were up, but he didn't even intend to shoot the man. That he intended to actually shoot the man that was mentally ill. And it's like that a lot of minorities, and especially the Black community, we see these things and it's clear and it's evident, and we feel like a lot of the times that maybe that we feel like some of the white people care, but it's like the sentiment is just like, oh, it doesn't really affect me, so I'm going to go about my day. But these are literally people dying. It's like you see it from the other side of the fence and you know that it's going on, but then you go back in your house and it's all fine. And I think a lot of the sentiment from like a lot of the unrest in the Black community is due to that. But I think, again, like John was saying with the media, it goes both ways. They make it seem like a lot of the things you see on Fox News and a lot of the reporters, a lot of those hot takes that they put on the media, it's not really the sentiment of the majority of white Americans. Because honestly, in my heart, I don't believe that the majority of people would feel that way. Now, like she said earlier, I agree that, sometimes people are just unaware and unassuming, and you can't necessarily penalize people for that. But for the majority, in the most part, people understand that things are going wrong, but the media has their own agenda, and they intend to, keep everybody separate so they can divide and conquer, and that's what they do, and that's what they continue to do, and that's what they've always done.
So what would help you to feel like you're being heard, to feel like that struggle that you're a part of is being recognized?
Well, I just feel like that there should be, and I'm not saying like there's some overseer or something, but like there should be more opportunity. Like we saw recently, Jill Stein, she's the president's candidate from the Green Party. Right. She got on CNN Town Hall. That was the first time in history that a non, the bipartisan, like that's the first time in history that there's been a third party candidate that's actually got significant airtime and a place to actually express their platforms. Like things like that. Those are the changes that we need. Like you can clearly see that the old way is not working, and now that we have other people, like people can think for themselves. Like he said, people can make their own decisions, and now that we see that's being able to happen, I feel like there should be more to foster that growth, and it's not right now.
And I think you hit it on going back into your house and hiding and it doesn't affect me. This institutional change is going to be a mosaic of individuals making changes in their own hearts and then not going back into their houses, but going out into the community and going out to their representatives and making noise and being courageous enough to take a stand and say, this is not right. And we need to change it, and right. it is going to be an ongoing thing. And there are times that you see things going in a positive direction, and you hope that we're one or two generations away from this dying out. And then you see something like what's going on in Texas with how they want to implement some history books that rewrite the Mexican story.
And slavery.
Yes.
That was another big thing. Like I don't know if everybody saw that, but in Texas there were actually school books that were being rewritten to make it seem like slavery really wasn't what it was, and that Black people weren't brought over here against their will, and that it was sort of like a partnership type of thing. That's crazy. And that's the thing that I think is one of the most dangerous things, is that you're literally educating people the wrong thing, and now you create a generation of people that know the wrong thing, and they have these ideals that are based off the wrong things that they were taught by the government, and now you have a whole generation that's lost, and we have to go through this again, which is why this has been going on for hundreds of years, because they keep the government, it feels like same thing with for profit prisons. The government it has its own agenda, and that's all that matters. It's not necessarily what the people want or what's best for the people, because we see that America has the means to do so many great things, but there's a lot of things that should be able to be controlled inside our own borders that we can't do, not for lack of money, just because somebody else has their own private agenda. And that's where the root of the problem is with a lot of this.
Yes. So do you think that there's ever a time where the government is going to have to fear the people?
I think it's coming now. I mean, you seen what's going on, like as far as with the. I know we keep harping back on it, but with this like police brutality stuff, people are not taking it anymore. And we saw the tragic thing that happened with the policeman in Dallas getting killed. Like, I wouldn't want that for anybody, and that's a terrible situation on both sides. But people are not taking it anymore, and it's coming to a head. And I really hope it doesn't have to get to some type of national tragedy before we can have some type of discussion and then something actually get done, because that seems to be the way it works around here. But I don't think it's going to take much longer. I think the issue is definitely coming to a head, and it's going to happen somewhere soon.
And I think that a lot of people are taking this lightly because this has been an issue that we keep coming back to. But, you know, those same, like, thugs that people fear, like, they ain't called thugs just for no reason. So, like, it's nothing for them to just pop stuff off. I'm not saying that's the best way, but I'm just saying there's people out there like that. So I think that unless things change, there's going to be a lot of history repeating itself. And so that's why I'm just trying to get people to wake up now, because stuff about to go down, y'all. Anybody else want to say anything? All right, well, I guess we're going to take a quick break so we can refresh our thoughts. If you'd like to join the conversation, you could call us at 901-260-5926. We'll be back shortly. All right, guys, welcome back to Tell Me More Radio with Tom Shadyac. I am your host, Jasmine Houston, and today we are speaking about, can Black people be racist? And we have had a lot of different opinions, and I respect everyone's perspective because it helps me find my own. And so I appreciate you guys. And so before we continue the conversation, I would like to play the second clip. It's a part of the same clip that we heard previously. I looked up her name, and her name is Cat Black. That's probably like an alias or something, but she's on YouTube and she has a blog. So Jess, could we play the second clip, please?
Racism to me is the actual prevention of, you know, Black people and people of color from pursuing prosperity in this country. You're really not prevented from pursuing prosperity because a Black person called you a honky. It's just not a thing. It's not real. You know, there's no system that's built up against white people to say, well, because you're white, you can't have access to this, this, and this, and this. Historically speaking, you can't really say that about people of color in general. You can't say that. You can't say that, you know, it's just all the same and everything is good now, because there are still systems that are working against people of color.
All right, and before I open up the conversation, I would like to bring out something that kind of stuck out to me. So, you know, the whole idea of superiority as far as people thinking that their race is better than the other one. I think that it's possible, as we see now, for, who was it that said nationalism? Yeah, nationalism, that was a big thing. So now you see more Black people calling each other kings and queens and things of that nature. So what's your perspective on that, just real quick? Anybody?
We're, instead of going by what the media perceives us as, we're coming together to figure out that we're just as important as the next person beside us. So I think that plays a big part, how we're taking the time to, oh, I'm just as beautiful or I'm just as handsome as the next person. Not letting them tell us what the most desirable face is in the world. Not telling us, you know, this is the most, you know, wanted race, but being okay with who I am and not wanting to be anyone else.
Yeah, and that made me think of something I saw from a news show. They were saying how some white woman's nose was at a perfect 6-point-something degree angle, and if your nose is that shape or size, it's considered to be the most beautiful. And I just think that it's interesting because everyone doesn't have those physical features. So when we have those images portrayed like in the media, like, oh, that's what beauty is, it kind of makes you think, well, what am I? You know, my nose don't look like that. I mean, it might do, I don't know, but the majority of people might not fit into that category.
Well, even if you weren't talking about race, the media wants us to be these skinny girls that's on the front of the Vogue magazines, no curves, flat back, everything. But it's amazing now when you get on social media and stuff that we see all these curvy girls, these girls that are, you know, loving their body now. So it takes a community to uplift someone else so we can move forward, so we can move away from the stigma of being just one thing or what people want us to be. So,
No, absolutely.
Okay.
And that's true of all people too. There are definitely stereotypes of all women and stereotypes of all men, and we tell men that you can't be feminine, or we tell women that you can't be masculine, and we do that as genders, we do that as races. We put ourselves into so many bisected tiny little boxes, and then we elevate one tiny little part of the population on the front of a magazine cover and say this felt thin young woman is the perfect person you could be, and this tall muscular man is the only person you should want to look up to.
And we don't spend enough time sending the message that you are enough, that whatever you look like doesn't matter, that you are enough just by being yourself.
Absolutely.
Andrew?
And isn't that kind of the root of racism and prejudice to a degree, is like fostering a level of insecurity with oneself, and you're not able to identify your own self as something important and something unique, whereas you're trying to measure yourself up to every other person in the world and every other race. So once you get to that level of insecurity, I think it just buds over into fear, and then you start persecuting others for your own level of unacceptability with your own self.
Honestly, that I think hits the nail completely on the head. And you know, I want to give everyone something to think about. It starts with a quote from Warren Buffett, who is the wealthiest person in the world with something like 80 something billion privately. He says, "A successful person says yes to the right thing. A very successful person says no to everything." And the way this ties into the social problems we have right now is, I see, you know, the racism, the black and white debates like a water running into a dam. You know, and tell me if you guys think differently, but you know, the growth of the African American, of the immigrant after the European, is the river that runs and hits the dam built by the white people, by, you know, quote unquote, the white America. And I think the problem is every time that this pressure gets built up, a little tangent is built off the river, like something like affirmative action, something like, oh, look at this, you know, look at LeBron James, look at Lil Wayne, look at all these people. And it takes that force away and it doesn't break the dam. And I think Warren Buffett would say, just keep saying no. You know, hey, we're going to do this to please. No, I don't care. I don't care. Until the dam breaks. Until it breaks, and then everything gets watered. You know, and I think we're afraid of the dam breaking. So as soon as someone gets that torrent, someone gets ready to break that dam, they're like, how about $100 million record deal of you just spouting, you know, terrible music, and we'll put it on the radio. And people buy into it and they're okay with it. And as someone who's not part of the stream, I say, until everyone is saying no, I don't want to be a part of a tangent that just runs off and dries off in a creek. You know, I want to be that water that goes back to the ocean, and no one should damn me for it, literally and figuratively.
And that's why you're the poet of the group.
That's a pretty cool thought. So I got one more question for you guys. I think this is the last one. I don't know. But you know how the whole movement in the NFL with Colin Kaepernick is starting, and people are joining him and protesting the national anthem. I think this is just one form of media where we see people getting outraged, but I think it's a lot of other ways of protest and people fighting against injustices are occurring, but we just don't see it in the media. And the lack of media attention of people actually moving towards unity makes me think that this system isn't destroying the system isn't desirable for other people, because we don't see it. Like, we see the same images of black people going to jail, black people doing this, black man robs a person. We keep seeing these images, but we don't see like this little girl over here reading a book with someone who's different than her. We don't see images like that. So why do you guys think that?
Okay, I know I'm coming from the shadows. This Michael, if y'all wondering. The thing about the Colin Kaepernick thing, one thing about it, nobody ever brought up that OJ never stood up for what he believed in, because when we was going through the worst back then, and OJ was like the all-time star, like nobody really figured that out. But when Colin stand up for what he's standing up for, everybody has an issue with it. I feel like that Colin Kaepernick is doing the right thing because also other athletes and other people are following in his footsteps. And I feel like the protest is actually a good thing. And I don't know why people so worked up about it, talking about he a backup quarterback and all that other stuff. But he's doing the right thing in my opinion.
All right, Justice, what you got to say real quick? We're running out of time. So.
I definitely agree, and I feel like if you don't, well, not necessarily agree, but if you don't support Colin Kaepernick's ability to do what he's doing, then you don't understand what patriotism is. That's what America was founded on. That's what they came over here to do. He has the right. He fought for it. It's a constitutional right. He has the right to do whatever he wants to do. And just because he has some sort of status, money, he plays for a football team, none of that matters. He feels like there's an injustice, and he still wants to stand against that, and he has the right to do so.
All right. Well, I appreciate your opinion and everyone else's opinion, and I appreciate everyone who listened. Thanks, Ms. Murphy, for giving me this idea. I'm really excited to keep talking about stuff like this because I think that things are changing and it's happening fastly, whether or not we recognize it. And it's all about love at the end of the day because everything is connected and we are one and the same. And once we realize that there's a bigger picture than what we see, then things will be better for everyone. So listen to Tawana Murphy's show next. Tune in tomorrow and next Thursday for my show. This has been Tell Me More. Thank you.
Peace.
Serving Tennessee, Mississippi, and Arkansas.